In case you haven't heard, there's a tornado outbreak on the way for Texas.
Are you serious?
No, I lied to you. I'd made that up. There's no tornado outbreak on the way for Texas, but there is some severe weather on the way for parts of Texas. This is the EF5 network where we can't control the weather, but we can tell it to you. I'm Weatherman Cam, and I'm here to break it down for you and talk about just what we're talking about when it comes to our severe weather threat. First, we'll start with a look at the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for Wednesday evening, where we do have a yellow slight risk, a 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather for parts of Texas, just west of Waco, west of Austin, and west of San Antonio. The timing of this looks like it will be coming in on Wednesday evening into Thursday as well. The Storm Prediction Center has also highlighted a region for those severe chances to carry into Thursday, and that stretches all the way into southeastern Texas from south of Dallas through Waco, through Austin, into San Antonio, and just west of the Houston region. Let's first set the stage. Let's take a look at the satellite, talk about what's going on. Let's talk about our ongoing storm system that will be bringing this severe weather as we head into the middle of the week. So looking at satellite, there's your storm system sitting right there off the southern coast of California. It's bringing clouds into Texas over the next several days, and this will be arriving into Texas by the middle of the upcoming week. We'll start with a look at the jet stream. Let's track out this storm system as it pushes across the southern half of the United States. So there is your current storm system right there sitting just to the far southeast corner of California. As we move throughout the next couple days, this is going to take its time to really get going, but then by the time we get into Wednesday, this starts to push off to the east. And you can see those areas starting to pick up along Wednesday and Thursday, where you see those wind speeds increase along that storm system, which is going to help our thunderstorms form and come together Wednesday and into Thursday as well. Then as we get to the later part of the week, we do see that finally kick out to the east and then finally get a break from the action down there in Texas. Taking a look at what this could look like on the future radar over the next couple of days, this is again pulling from the GFS, the American Computer Model. So over the next couple of days in Texas, they'll see some pretty calm weather. Can't rule an isolated shower or two popping up somewhere in Texas Tuesday into Wednesday. But then as we get into the later hours of Wednesday, a couple of showers will start to pop up. But again, these are just some general rain showers, nothing to be concerned about. But then as we go into the overnight hours of Wednesday into Thursday, you start to see some better activity on the future radar, showing some better organization with our storms. And again, the main risk for these storms will be some wind and some hail. The tornado threat is not zero, but it's very low, very close to zero. It's, again, we can't say it's zero, but it is near zero Wednesday into Thursday. Then going into the early morning hours of Thursday around 3 a.m., you can see much better organization with these storms. Almost has a bit of that squall line feature where we just see mainly a wind threat as these storms kick out. Looking at the later morning hours of Thursday, those storms do push into the northeastern portion of Texas, into the Texarkana region, but those do eventually kick out and clear out off to the east towards Mississippi and Alabama, where they could also get on some thunderstorms where, again, they could see some wind and some hail coming down these, but again, the tornado threat is still fairly low with these storms. There's not enough energy at the Earth's surface. Let's get into the meat and potatoes now, what you came here to see, those severe weather parameters, what we could exactly be working with. And as we progress into Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, you see a couple flare-ups in what we call our supercell composite. And that supercell composite is just a better way for us to get an idea on what storms could have just a little bit more of a punch. But these parameters are pretty low. They're not zero, of course, but they are near zero, very low concern with these storms. Again, main threat still looking like it's just going to be wind and hail with these. Overall, a pretty low severe weather threat, honestly, a very low severe weather threat. So this is nothing to be alarmed of. Maybe you get a couple severe thunderstorm warnings, but overall, that's what you're looking at with this storm system. Building off that supercell composite graphic you just saw, there's a couple of parameters that go into play with that. One is CAPE, which is thunderstorm energy. Number 2 is wind shear, which is turning of the winds counterclockwise with speed as you go higher up in the atmosphere. So we're going to take a look at what we call bulk wind shear, which is wind shear from the surface to about 20,000 feet up in the air. So as we get into Wednesday, you're starting to see some reds pop up in southwestern Texas, and that's because that storm system is starting to knock on the door of Texas. But then as you get into Wednesday into Thursday, you see more widespread red, which means better wind speeds, better wind shear, better turning of the winds. And what that wind shear ultimately does, it helps thunderstorms to organize, gets them just a little bit more of a punch as they push across. That's when your threat for some damaging winds and some hail opens up. But again, this is an overly small threat, but you do have some pretty impressive wind shear as you get into Thursday afternoon around lunchtime or so. The second parameter that goes into that supercell composite graphic is CAPE, which is convective, available, potential energy, which is ridiculously wordy. So we're going to keep it super simple and just call it thunderstorm energy. You start to see some values creep up Wednesday into Thursday. Nothing overly impressive. You have a little bit of CAPE at the Earth's surface, which does help to give thunderstorms a bit of a boost, but it's nothing overly impressive. So this is what we call a limiting factor, or what's ultimately going to help or hinder the severe threat Wednesday into Thursday. Now we're going to take a look at something you might not see on most weather YouTube channels, and that is what we call a forecasted skew-T sounding. It's a way for us to look into the atmosphere and see what the storm environment looks like on a 2D plane. Looking at the skew-T, there are a couple of limiting factors that comes to our severe potential, which again, those limiting factors does help to hinder the chances for bigger severe weather. And there's a couple of things we're going to take a look at here. So the first one that you're going to look at here is going to be what we call a cap in the Earth's atmosphere, which that cap is almost acts as a roof for the atmosphere. So if that's the case, you have a cap. These storms what we call elevated, meaning they can't access those thunderstorm ingredients or such as that CAPE at the Earth's surface. And because that, with them being elevated, your risk mainly shifts to just wind and hail. Again, the tornado threat is not zero, but it's near zero. Another limiting factor with this current sounding is that CAPE, that energy, that thunderstorm energy. It looks to be pretty limited, seeing only around 500 joules per kilogram of CAPE, which again, that's at the Earth's surface. So if you have that capping in place in the atmosphere, the thunderstorm's not going to be able to reach that CAPE that's based at the Earth's surface. Now looking at the wind shear on this skew-T, again, the wind shear is another ingredient when it comes to severe weather. You have some pretty decent wind shear. Our hodograph, a two-dimensional drawing of the winds and their speeds and directions, it looks pretty good for severe weather. Nothing too overly impressive, but enough that could help a couple thunderstorms organize and produce, again, those strong winds and some hail coming down the Earth's surface. You have some pretty decent shear all the way from the surface to the cloud basis as well. But again, because you have that capping in the atmosphere and you have that low energy, that does put a massive drawback and a massive limiting factor in our severe weather. So overall, a pretty low-end severe threat, nothing to be overly concerned about. Now that we've covered the severe weather, let's go ahead and take a look at what could be coming, about 7 to 10 days out. Nothing too crazy, but we are watching for a couple more cold shots of air that could work their way into the United States. Not talking as cold as we saw in January, but we could see a couple more cold shots coming out of the north and bringing some colder weather into parts of the plains and maybe even into North Texas as well. But again, that's about 7 to 10 days out. Those computer models, they can flip-flop back and forth with our weather information, so that could change. But we are watching for some cold air that could be working its way into the United States from about 7 to 10 days out. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. It takes 1 second, just 1 second to subscribe. That's all it takes. But I'm Weatherman Cam. This is the EF5 Network, where we don't control the weather, but we can tell you about it.